Hello. We've been talking about ministry in Canada, especially to the Francophone people of Canada, Quebec, and the rest of Canada. Today we have with us a friend of mine, Jeremy Murdoch. How are you, Jeremy?
I'm pretty good. Yourself, Gary?
Great. Tell us about what you do in northern Ontario.
Well, I currently live in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, and I've actually lived here since 2000. It's probably the first time I met you, Gary, when I had the privilege of serving Mission Canada when
Yeah.
I had planted a campus church. And so I'm still here, and I planted a church back in 2004 called the Summit. But in November of 2019, actually, I resigned because I was elected by my fellow ministers in Western Ontario District to serve as their regional director for Northern Ontario.
Well,
And
that's
honestly,
quite a jump.
it's been a definite journey. Truly a joy to serve in that capacity, right? Because I've been born and raised Kapuskasing, Ontario. So
Okay.
I'm a product of ministry to the north, and I get the joy of serving back and giving back to to the north as it has for me. So yeah, that's where I'm at now, and still living there, and happy to call the north my home.
And so tell me a bit about the North. Tell me a bit about, the culture and what it's like up there in the communities and in the churches.
I mean, it's I would say the North is not much different necessarily than many churches. It's definitely very relational. I mean, I remember as a kid, even growing up, you'll see it in Kapuskasing. Somebody will drive by somebody in the middle of the street, stop right in the middle of the street to chat with their buddy for a little bit, right? So you'll still see that kind of thing a little, and which might annoy a Southerner who's used to the fast-paced go of life. But it definitely is. You'll find there's a camaraderie, I think, amongst leaders, even amongst the pastors that come and serve, whether they're from the north or not. There's definitely a sense of connectivity with each other, and whether you're 3 hours from each other or 5 minutes, we're brothers in arms, so to speak. We're working together, and there's that sense within the church, within the parishioners, I think within the communities, whether people go to church or not, there's definitely a connection relationally that way.
So tell me a bit about the spiritual receptivity in the Northern Ontario and the area, open to the gospel and so forth.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's a whole lot different than anywhere, and especially in our day and age. People don't seem to care a whole lot about the idea of religion, per se. And so, I mean, unless the Holy Spirit is leading that individual towards questions and things that they're searching for, I mean, there's not a ton of receptivity because I don't find that people are out there looking for church. But definitely in our more uncertain days and days with a lot of questions, I'm finding that people are a lot more open to conversing about even our situation today with COVID. Asking a lot of whys and what do you thinks, and people hear things in the news and from neighbors and coworkers and whatnot. But I find that people are receptive out of relationship, and there is a certain level of trust because the North isn't necessarily a lot of people moving in quickly and moving out. It's sort of you've grown up here, you might have gone away to school, but you're back. And I mean, in the Sioux, it took me a number of years to be considered a Siouxite, right? And you first move, you're just an implant. Even though I'm from the North, you're just an implant. But at this point in time in the venture, I mean, I'm a Siouxite. And so people begin to trust you because you've been serving your community. And I do that through coaching. I coach volleyball, and I've been doing it for years in the schools and college. And so I've earned a lot of trust and respect just by coaching. So people know I'm a pastor, they know I'm a Christian. And so conversations now develop more as a result of the relationship. So I find the receptivity to the things of God come more out of relationship. And I think that's every community, really, not just the North, but definitely in the North.
So, um, you know, I'm not from the North, but I been up to
God.
North Ontario. I've been there. So I do know there's a fairly strong French contingency. And so tell me a bit about the French community and maybe a couple of examples of churches. Because last fall you spoke to me, you called me up and say, hey, Gary, do you know somebody who might be open to come here and minister in Northern Ontario? But really, Gary, they need to have French. So that's interesting. Tell me a bit about that, French in Ontario and the ministry that's going on in the Western Ontario district.
Well, I did a little bit of research myself just to get some numbers in my head right, and I found it pretty interesting that after France, sorry, and Quebec, Ontario is the largest jurisdiction of Francophone people, and there's about somewhere on the vicinity of 800,000 Francophone people in Ontario, most of which, of course, are in Northern Ontario. There is a lot of French-speaking communities. And most people, I'd say, would be bilingual. They would speak both French and English. Myself, I grew up in Kapuskasing, and I went to a French school right up until grade 6, grade 7, and you know, all my connections were still with French. My mother is born and raised French, so a lot of connection to the French people in Cap. But most people speak both languages. But what we find is in our Northern Ontario communities, though we have a large number of French-speaking people who are a part of our English churches, we don't have a lot of French leaders. And we definitely don't even have a lot of English leaders who speak French. I know, speaking to a friend of mine, a friend of both of ours, Gilles, he said when he got saved in an English church because that's all there was. But he was born and raised Hearst, Ontario, and he kind of had to learn the gospel in English, but he's totally French culture. And I think we have a number of our French people, and probably that's like, when I think about even the community of Hearst, which is probably somewhere in the vicinity of 95+% that are French first. Okay. And it's great. It's crazy. Yeah. And we have a great leader there, Peter Robillard, who's been there for years, and he's an Englishman who speaks French and has gained some good traction over the years in Hearst. But he has said we really need a French person, you know, and we need to maybe see a flip in some of our communities, Smooth Rock Falls, Sudbury. We need to find French leaders who speak English. And because many of the people that we're trying to reach in our communities in Northern Ontario who are French speaking, there's a disconnect because of the culture. And so it's not that they don't trust you because you're English. There's a disconnect maybe because you're English coming into a French culture. And so we do find that within some of our churches, the French people are sort of regulated to, we love you because you're French, but everything is in English in our church service because we can't provide anything for you in French. And so, yeah, there is definitely a need, I'd say, in Northern Ontario for French ministry, whether it be a pure French church or strong ministry within a bilingual community.
So, you know, there's that sense. You were saying the majority of the French population in Ontario is in Northern Ontario, but around down in the western part of Western Ontario, you do also have some French churches there.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We've got about 14 French churches, Francophone churches within the district, and there's probably only seven in Northern Ontario, and the rest are scattered between kind of mid south and the GTA, Hamilton. A lot of those French churches are I'll say national churches from the Congo, from Haiti. And we're serving in those areas. We even have a church plant dream in Welland, and so there's a community just outside of Welland. It's strong French church population, but we have no ministry to them. And
I was down there a couple of years ago. The pastor in Welland, what's his name?
Amy Shepherd.
Yeah, had me down for a July 1st Canada Day. What we did is we did I think the 9 o'clock service all in English, and then from 10 till 10:30 we had French. I brought down maple syrup from Quebec, and we had the maple syrup, everybody. And then at 11 we had the exact same service in French. And so we invited the English people to come to the service, and there was a good group of people who came. So it's interesting, these pockets of French people everywhere in Ontario.
We have a church right now in Toronto that they're a Congolese church, and we're trying to get a French pastor from the Ivory Coast to come and to take care of the congregation. But because of COVID, it's very, very difficult right now. And even in Sudbury, we're trying to get a pastor to care for that French work in Sudbury. And it's just, I mean, this season with COVID has made it even more difficult.
So, we're talking about maybe there's places to have people who come and they could be pastors of churches. So talk to me about church planting. Is there openness in the Western Ontario district to plant French churches in the north? And do you particularly see some areas, Jeremy, where it might be good to have a new French church?
100%. The Western Ontario district is a strong proponent of church planting. Last year in 2020, we planted, I think it was 18 or 19 churches in the Western Ontario district. And since 2017, I think we've planted about 30 or 45 alone. Like, we're a strong planting district. We believe in it. And we're seeing a number of different, I'll say, language groups, churches planted as well. That's headed up by Jason Small, who had my role previous to me coming in.
Right.
So Jay has a passion for planting churches. And for French communities as well, we really do need to see, we talk about it a lot, that there's other communities that would find value in, and even if it's not a French church, it would be maybe a French ministry within a church. In some communities,
Sure.
That's what they need right now. And to have someone with a passion, a dream, I'll say, to reach French, first speaking people in Northern Ontario or in Southern Ontario would be a dream come true. So you talked about Welland, and I know it's been Jamie Shepherd's heart. And if we could find somebody who says, man, I want to live in Southern Ontario and I want to minister to French people, then there's an opportunity. And the district comes alongside you and supports you, not just with prayer and encouragement and leadership development, but with finances to actually help that. And I know churches like Welland would be 100% behind supporting some kind of a work in that. So there is lots of opportunity. And for some of our existing works, we have a church in Smooth Rock Falls right now. They're without a pastor, and we're transitioning it right now. And they've always had great ministry in that community, but that are English speaking leaders. The community is about 50-50 French and English.
Yeah.
And but most leaders who've gone there have been English primarily, and maybe can get along with a few words in French. I think since the days of Claude Laney, it hasn't been a pure French leader in Smooth Rock, but it would be a real advantageous move for that community to have a leader be comfortable in both languages. So yeah, there's definitely opportunities here, Gary.
So Jeremy, you said you went to French school when you were a kid.
Yeah, I did.
So,
En français.
How's your French?
Mon français, c'est pas pire.
Whoa!
J'oublie beaucoup de mots. So, si tu parles, si j'avais besoin de lire en français, it would be okay. J'oublie tous mes mots.
Pretty good. So the truth is, you're a closet Habs fan.
Not at all.
Hey, listen, Jeremy, it's really been good. And if people want to contact you about some of those things, they can reach the Western Ontario District Office and ask for you. And even on this interview at the end, I'll put your coordinates on when you can meet you. Hey, thanks a lot for taking the time today to meet with us and talk. And we just pray the Lord will bring into his harvest those he chooses to do it. So great. Et que le Seigneur te bénisse abondamment.
Merci.